Hi, and welcome to the Holistic Hub with Marie and Martine, a welcoming, nurturing, and soul supporting environment of all things spiritual, energy, and alternative. Our intention is to freely and lovingly share the personal truths, stories, or wisdoms we've gained, hopefully offering any guidance, new perspective, or light bulb moment that you may wish to take away to assist you through your navigation of the journey out of 3D, through 4D, and toward 5D and beyond. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Holistic Hub, episode 22, I feel. Welcome. It's an early morning start for us, but we're up for it. So we're putting this out today on Wednesday, the 8th, just after the big full moon, and we're still feeling the effects of that. So this month is a big month, and I think it's just the lead into what the rest of the year is to follow. So with that, we've been having a discussion for probably half an hour prior today about what do we do, what do we say, and Martine just said, well, we probably should have just recorded the last half an hour, which we know we might just do next time. We might just hit record in our so what's happening, and just see what comes there. But we're going to try to bring in kind of a whole range of different thoughts, and we've digressed and added stuff into each other. But I think, there's a bit of a common theme here. It's certainly a common theme for me of late, where I know my higher self is directing me to whom I speak to, and the clients and avenues that I work and write. And that is about consciousness, absolutely, that we are all consciousness first. We are energy first and physical second. But that's going to become more and more apparent over the next few years, because the energies, as we know, are shifting. So with that, what we thought we would discuss, and I've just realised I haven't even said hi, Martine.
That's right. We've been chatting, Marie.
I know. I said hi, Martine, so long ago. I forget we're online. So yeah, I haven't been rude, but yeah, it's just my mind now. My being is going into different tangents of what to grab onto. So I'm sort of doing the collective pull in. But I feel we're just going to see where it goes, obviously. But I think it's a really good chat, and particularly after my ego group I had last night, we got a lot into the organ side of things, our physical structures, and then we worked at the emotional level, not deep diving, but just on that superficial aspect, to look at it differently, to see what our beliefs hold, how we view our body, and to recognize that we are all, whether we know it, believe it, or like it, we are all in now a transitional stage where we will be moving out of the physical, understanding more that we are energy first, and some of us will be moving rapidly towards our light body state. So that's a long way away for many, but to understand the movement from here to here, we've got to start here. And I think this is always such a good place to start, because I'm sure there'll be some gems of wisdom for many of you, or aha moments, hopefully, that you can just sit with, digest, and potentially look within and see how that can be affected in your world. So your thoughts of where we're heading today, or what's coming up for you?
Well, Marie and I talking about that through the physical expressions like we do. And, what we were discussing before was, Marie and I we've done a lot of inner work, so even 10 years ago, there would be times where I'd be calling Marie an existential crisis and needing to chat it out with her. And personally, I feel like I've gotten to a greater ability to bring it down to myself and really do the work in that moment, and not feel like I'm needing to seek outside myself to achieve that. With that also being said, I seek outside of myself on a regular basis as part of the way that I can continue that connection to myself. So I do seek out regular massage or osteopathy, or I'll get pulled to go and have a facial, or whatever that looks like. I know in that moment that I'm going to the exact person that I'm meant to be going to, and I'm receiving exactly what I'm meant to be receiving, and whether they're conscious of that or not, that who knows. I remember last time I went for a massage, usually I go for a massage and Sean does cupping on me as well. And this time I'd booked an hour and a half, and I just knew I had to book an hour and a half. And when I got there, she was like, so what are we doing? And we always chat about, you know, where I'm feeling like I'm wanting to release things. And I go, but we've got this extra half an hour. So I want you to be free to do what you need to do in that time. And I saw her face light up. You know, I could just see that beautiful journey we were about to go on. And we did, you know, she was like, you know, she recognized where she was forcing, she recognized where she needed to pull back, she recognized an energy or a statement around whatever was happening for me in that moment. And it was just this beautiful exchange between us where, you know, because I'd given her permission to just do her thing, she honored and did that. And you know, these are the unfoldings and the practices that we have available to us and around us if we consciously choose. So this morning before I came on here, I wanted to write a little something about birds. You know, in homeopathy, we've utilized the substances of the earth, if we call them that, for many, many years. So this is a over 200-year modality. And back in the day, you know, it was built on about 200 minerals, plants, and animal substances that were utilized in homeopathy. And now we've got the thousands, because as homeopaths, we see something, we're like, we must prove this particular species of rose. You know, we've even proved the mobile phone, or, you know, and looked at what the energy vibration of that is and when someone would meet that need. And so, you know, the roundabout story that I'm telling here is that Marie and I have been on this beautiful journey over the years of really going within ourselves and being able to shift that. But we also know that there are many who can't, when they hit in that existential crisis or whatever you want to call it, that can't meet that need in themselves. So a lot of the hub has really been about how do you come back to your center in those moments? How can you bring it back to the self? How can you take accountability? How can you come back to love? And this is more or less just another extension of that, talking about anything that's less than love. But I feel for my journey and where I'm at with that is this real need to meet people at a place where, you know, there are alternate options. So when we're looking at just say the female reproductive system and how many people just have symptoms in their cycle, or the extremes of that, where we talk about the extremes of heavy bleeding or perimenopause symptoms that in my clinic have often turned into like partial hysterectomies or full hysterectomies. And likewise with endometriosis, you know, the amount of women who have found me over the years and the way that they even express the fact that they have endometriosis, it's like an energy that they know that they can't shift. And that I have endometriosis, you know, that is something that I have learned to live with, and that I know it can't be changed. But again, it can. And this is about bringing it back into this conscious awareness that it's actually a journey that you're on, and you're on this journey through the expressions of whatever's happening physically in this moment. And this is, again, one of the reasons why I love homeopathy as a tool so much, because it meets you where you're at. It meets you. And so I'm sitting there as the observer. This is my favorite thing to just do, is to watch what state you're in, which is why we have so many remedies. We have the birds, we have the mammals, we have all the animals, we have all the insects, we have, you know, spider remedies that are one of our biggest anorexic remedies, like to give. We've got all of the mineral remedies which require that structure or don't have that structure. And then we've got all the plant ones that, you know, are they're so sensitive to everything around us. So it's about recognizing that particular state in someone, that particular expression, and then utilizing a homeopathy not to fix you, but to guide you, and to guide you back to your truth, to your center, and to guide you back to the awareness that this is actually something that you're co-creating, that you're creating with for whatever journey. And, you know, Marie and I had this big discussion about how important it is to continue to pull out that judgment. And as a homeopath, in the years of my practice, you know, it has been at times like I put my full hand up to having that struggle at times to be not judging another's journey. You know, it's been a journey unto my own to really surrender and to let that go when, you know, as a person, you know that there are so many options out there to move through these lower density vibrations into more of a love frequency, and that there is only then just reflected my own impatience with myself, or reflected something back to me that then I've had to look at on another level. So, you know, this is in part the reason why I feel like the hub was created in the first place for me in my journey, is to get awareness of all of these other different ways of doing things out there. And my journey about that, you know, previously up until the most recent years, where I've been putting myself into video format or putting myself into different ways of expressing these things, has been to just allow people to find me when they're ready through word of mouth, or, you know, and I feel like it's my responsibility to be looking at whatever it was that has been okay with that obviously is not okay with that anymore, and partly to do with the fact that it's important for me to share all the other ways in which we can connect to this.
Absolutely. Well, there's so much there that we could unpack in truth, but you know, there's where do I start? Like, you know, absolutely, in so many levels of, well, you know, which point do we actually come in on? Because I think just the last sentences are so important if we are practitioners, but even if we're just regular human souls doing our stuff. And it's interesting because I can hear the polarity of my journey to a degree of what Martine's described, and I know Martine so well. And this is no any aspects of judgment, it's just that observation again, but bringing it back to me. And again, at the end of the day, it's the soul's journey, it's the soul's true walk, what we come to experience. And the soul is creating it first and foremost. We think we are most of the time, but we're not. So the soul is creating everything from the energetic aspect, and we are one as the soul. Let's get that straight. It's the time to stop linear aspects. It's the time to pull out that we're physical and everything else is beyond us. And I think this is the moment where we are in that shift, that we have to become whole, and that movement into the wholeness is the recognition that this person that we've seen in the mirror every day, who we think is all we are, isn't. And the physical body that we think is just the way it is, and whatever presents can't be addressed or adjusted, isn't. And it's the beliefs, it's everything about us from here that is what we experience. And I know from my perspective that the journey for me has been one where I've not been adventurous. I haven't had that mind of inquisitive nature. I've been so fearful, and many of you might, you know, align to this, that we're so fearful because we do hold so much light. Everybody holds light, no matter how you think of yourself. You are light. We are all equal, come from the same source. We are the extension of consciousness of the same source right now, okay? But in the ego aspect, in the lower, denser, this is all I am, physicality, you know, again, according to the plan, but according to our fear within the plan, okay, this is really important. The level of fear we hold is the level of resistance to which we dare to try to seek, to which we dare to expand our mind, to which we give ourselves the ability to even break free of the thoughts that are containing us. And that was me, where I was so embedded and limited by my fear, and so fearful of anything that might be alternative to address that fear in the moment. And that wasn't conscious, but it was still coming through me. That any alternative idea, I remember when I had my big 19, and this is a moment of this particular full moon, an article that I wrote, or not wrote, but I posted, I think, that this moon in particular is the alignment of whatever happened to you 26 years ago. So for me, that was my breakdown, breakthrough, smash, everything collapsed. It was the year of hell for me, because prior to that, I was in total resistance to my wake up from my soul. I was pushing away completely. So my soul said, well, you know, this is the divine moment for you to wake up. You don't have an option on this. Your physicality, your mind control that you think you're controlling, we override that from the energetic space of you every moment. And so we will push you through this because you are refusing to listen. Your fear is so strong that you will not turn towards any fraction of the tiny bit of light trying to get your attention. And I was still like this the whole way. And so my soul took over through the arrival and with the death of my mother, the death of my beloved dog, then the arrival of my daughter, who truthfully at that moment I hadn't planned, then the loss of a potential job that was my star job, then the arrival of my daughter at a premature age where fear was rife, in a set of depression from the death of my mother, then into postnatal depression, then into total body collapse and breakdown and toxicity coming out through my skin. Everything that could go wrong should, and then into the depths of suicide. But everything that was in place of my awakening, which I was holding on to with gritted teeth and hands, was taken over. Now, it doesn't have to be that unpleasant, is my message. But it was then, because it was a different time too. This is a totally different energy to now. It's full on now with the energies to support you. Back then, it was much denser and heavier. So it was more difficult. And that's not to say, oh, gee, I chose it tough. Yes, I did. I chose that moment because I needed to walk through it to discover parts of me ultimately. But I can still remember I was offered a practitioner then in that state to go and see, who was a naturopath. And she may have been naturopath, homeopath back then. So this is probably 1995. I was in resistance by the person who told me to go and see her, and they'd booked the appointment. So I wasn't in my free will. I didn't book it. And then when I went, I know I was in total shutdown because here I was still in my fear, which is very much a Scorpio of my mother, my grandmother, and that genetic, energetic aspect of lineage of not letting anybody in, not opening me up to seeing the shadow parts of me or the parts that I was denying. And so I sat there and everything she said, I hardly answered, was no, yes, no. And she just, and I remember her still to this day, and I send her blessings in hindsight, because she said to me, well, how long are you going to hold the wall? How long are you going to keep it up? And I was like, in my ego, excuse me, who the hell do you think you are? And I'm sure Martine's seen many of these people. But that was me. Truthfully, no sugarcoating around it. I was absolutely in skepticism, refusal, denial, in aggression, in anger, in frustration, in everything of me holding on to the wall collapsing. That was happening regardless. And then it took me, I don't know, probably till the end of 95. It was almost a year later from the arrival of my daughter that I came into the body, that I actually became present. That whole total system collapse that had to take place, took place. I then landed and then for the first time realized I actually had a baby in my arms that I could feel and that I could recognize was mine. Prior to that, she was an object. She was just this thing that I had to get through every day with, and ran to work as soon as I could to get away from. So we will all create what we need, and we will be in the polarity of from the lowest of low to anywhere up that gradient of our levels of fear. But that fear is what we have come to address.
Yeah.
And our body will be showing us the resistance to the fear that we have, the resistance to the cognition and the coherence of becoming one in the field of who we are on many layers, to actually dare to look deeper and to go within, as opposed to trying to fix, as Martine said, running away and becoming powerless to someone else, to giving our power away to whoever, wherever we can, instead of taking it back and saying, I am and I can. And how do I? And to be able to say that is really difficult for many people, to actually say to someone, I need help. Because our ego will say, I can do it. Now, I can also say from a nurse, this was the shame and guilt. Oh, I know everything. I have to know everything. I'm nursing. I know all these things. I'm a midwife. What the hell? I can't let people, I'm less than. I can't let people think that I'm in this state of inability to cope. This was my control again. So I held it and held it. And I can tell you back then, to this day, it still amazes me. No one knew I was in any form of depression. No one knew. No one came to assist. I had such an incredible veneer around me of this wall of, look at the surface, don't go further than that, which is what the naturopath was trying to do. And I was in your face, lady. No one gets in here. But many of us have that. And this is what is difficult. But as I did with my ego group last night, we have these stories, we have these untruths about us, who we think we are and what this represents. But until we get to know ourselves, we can't make any change. Until we own who we are, we can't make any change. And a simple exercise I did last night with them, and I've done it years ago and I love it, is on a piece of paper, you simply write the positives and negatives about yourself. And I found it fascinating back then because I thought I was a positive person. I was a laugh, I was the clown, I could talk to anybody, I was happy, I was this, I was that. And I knew, you know, as I started to open up, what I was hiding. But on the surface, it was great. And everyone thought, wow, she's got her act together. Not seeing the crumbling in behind the wall and the complete chaos that was there and the fear. And when I really started to open up to this journey about me after that cracking open, literally, was I wrote this and thought, oh, that's a nice idea. And then when I wrote it, it was like hell. I thought I was positive. I wasn't. My positives were this, my negatives were this. And that was a big eye-opener for me. And I know it was for some last night in the group, because we have these stories ego will tell us about ourselves. But when we see it on paper, and I remember in that moment, I remember saying to myself, shit, you've got some serious work to do here on you. And it was a real confronting moment of going, oh, hell, who am I? And that's the best sentence I ever want to hear from anybody's lips, because that means, great, we're open to shift and change. You've got something there that's willing to say, well, who really am I? We still don't fully know ourselves, absolutely. We can't in this physical format. But it's a starting point, and I recommend it to everybody, regardless of how far you think you are in your journey. Do it. Regardless of how much I was doing groups, I was reading, I knew masters' names, I knew a lot, but I sat down to do that and went, whoa. You know, and we often are saying last night, we often think of the negative ego or the lower ego, and we default to that very quickly. As Martine said, you're in your crisis, bang, down you go, because that's the consciousness, the voice you know the best. And ironically and paradoxically, we trust in it the most, even though it doesn't serve us, because we recognize it so clearly and it's got some form of safety net for us, as opposed to the positive ego that we really put our toe in, or we might have put a foot in, or we might have somewhat immersed ourselves into, but we still aren't fully there in that space 24/7. And so to be that person of the positive ego, and that could be out of balance too, we can have the manic aspects of that, because it's all about balance. But to find the positive, which is our divine masculine, taking action in accordance with the divine feminine that gives us the divine inspiration, we have to allow the positive parts of us to be witnessed too. And the other part of the exercise last night that I offered was then to find a person who you feel has got it all, who you just love, who you put on a pedestal, who you think's wonderful, literally got everything you love, physically or mentally or emotionally, however that is, and write their list of positive and negative traits. And 9 times out of 10, your list will mirror each other in the way that my negatives of the list long of my negatives were the list long of the positives of this person that I used. And my positives were her negatives. But in saying that, energetically, we are energy only, and energy only attracts like energy. So whatever you believe and whatever vibrational traits you have within your entire etheric field, from physical, mental, emotional, and the grand etheric multidimensional self, you are carrying all the energies of your previous lifetimes, you still have positive traits. They're there. And so when you see a vibrational trait in another, you think, wow, she's got it together. Wow, she's this, she's got that, she's wonderful. That's the mirror back to you as well as the negative is. You just aren't accepting or acknowledging those traits within you yet because this voice is louder. And it's the rebalancing between the two as we allow that acknowledgement, recognition, acceptance, ultimately love, ultimately to come through for the rebalance to neutrality, where the positive and negative frequencies within each trait that we've come to work through come back into balance. Make sense?
Oh, so much stuff. Yes, massive. I think this is where that idea around imposter syndrome, like, it is something that people feel, and how that even got born as a statement or a phrase of how we feel. Because again, when we start to really listen to the rumbles of our soul and listen to the uncomfortable parts of ourselves, remember that they get expressed through our job, they get expressed through the way that we connect to money, they get expressed through relationships, or our health and well-being. These are all our vessels of expression. This, as we peel those off and we really start to take accountability for the things that we have been trying to pat down, cover up, not look at, we really start to see what is our uniqueness here, what is our ability. I've been working with a client and she said to me, I can feel she's on the verge. I feel like this is entrepreneur season. I feel like for the next 10 years, this is, we've lived in a time. We've lived in a time where, this has been a norm, but a paradigm that, like, to get a job has been a norm and a paradigm that we have been indoctrinated into. And to not be an entrepreneur is stifling to our creative flow, because you're aligning to someone else's creative flow. So I know she's on the verge of discovering this about herself. I just know that, she's already left her career. She's in a completely different job that is serving and a community-based job. And yet she still can feel the rumblings. And she knows, what she does know is that she knows she really enjoys listening, and that she really values what comes out of her mouth as guidance. And we were exploring that. We were exploring it from the perspective of, well, where do you feel like you most connect with yourself, with others in? And that was how she kind of shared that. But, again, it comes down to, do I have the degree to match that? Do I have the capacity to hold that space for someone? All of this, what, is labeled in the world as imposter syndrome, starts to come up because we don't feel within ourselves that we have a right to be sharing this uniqueness of ourselves. And so it to me, it's like really interesting to watch it through the eyes of a child as well. And it was only just yesterday when we were driving to school and Isla had her sunglasses on, and she goes, I remember this time. So she's in grade 3. So she goes, I remember this time when I was in grade 1, so 2 years ago, that I accidentally wore my sunglasses into school and I didn't realize. And people said to me, you've got sunglasses on. And I went, oh. And she talked about how embarrassing that was for her, that she didn't know, that someone pointed it out, and that, that she didn't realize at the time. And I've watched my journey with my child in school, and it's only been sort of recently where she doesn't always need me to escort her right down into the classroom. But for a long time, and even COVID time, where I was like, told that I wasn't allowed on the premise to bring her down, I wasn't planning on sacrificing her need for that. So I pulled out all of my stuff around that. And then I said, well, look, no, she's not ready to walk through. To her, it puts her in a situation where she feels it's too much. She's the whatever comes up for her, whether that's concept of feeling too seen, or that there are lots of kids around. It's a really confronting thing having to walk through the middle of school and amongst all of these kids, and she wasn't ready for it yet. And so here I was just supporting her in that. So in that COVID time, one of the ladies used to come up. I said, well, my negotiation was that they had to meet her. So she would come up to the top of the stairs and get Isla and escort her down. And that was okay with Isla. Like she compromised that. That was something that she felt safe to do, and that met her needs. But we have within our childhood just alone so many different circumstances like that one. And I'm not saying I've nailed every one of Isla's. There's going to be plenty where I've just shucked, like gone, deal with it and, you know, let her figure it out on her own. But this is an example of where, say, that need. I noticed another one of my clients whose child started at school this year and is really struggling with the let go, whereas at her preschool she's fine, right? So we had this chat about, well, were you as a child supported in this? Did you feel like you were just kind of thrown to the wolves, or what was that experience like for you? You know, because your child's going to be reflecting back to you wherever that need wasn't kind of met in you, so that you have the ability to almost reparent that need within yourself. And we're built on these multitude of coping mechanisms that we've put in place from this time. And those coping mechanisms are us as an adult. So a lot of the time when people come in to see me, and they'll, you know, the 9 times out of 10, they'll come in with their child and they'll be seeking out guidance around their child, but there'll be reflections back to the parents. You can't always connect those dots and allow them to see them really clearly straight away. So, you know, you do your thing with the child, and I can still treat a child without having to treat the parent, but I'm always planting seeds there continuously until they get those aha moments where they see that connection and that truth.
Yeah.
And this is how we then are more complicated. This is why in the Materia Medica of homeopathy we have so many homeopathics, because, you know, we're now this beautiful onion layer where we're constantly peeling off layers and layers of the self to reveal back to that childhood state. Like, you know, look at this. My daughter can identify that doesn't make her feel good, but yet there's plenty of things that we do on a daily basis that don't make us feel good that we do anyway, because we've conditioned ourselves to tolerate it, or to suck it up, or whatever that feels like. And as we start to peel those back and we start to realize, I can't do that, I don't want to do that, that doesn't align with me, that's sometimes a really rocky path to find yourself in, because you've also then got to take accountability for the fact that up until this point in time where you are right now, you got yourself here. So you got yourself in that job, you got yourself to a state of this health, you got yourself into this relationship that you're experiencing right now, all of the things, you got yourself to however much money you have in your bank account. And, you know, this becomes a really like a I don't know, what do you call it, a peak and a trough of, oh my gosh, this is amazing, oh my gosh, this is really hard, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love teaching the seesaw, because that's, again, that peak and trough thing. You know, the seesaw is, for me, always that we're ultimately aiming for balance. That's the ultimate aim, neutrality, the still point it's called. And it's like, you know, energy. This is simply energy. This is why I love teaching energy, because it just removes you out of the emotional attachment. And again, you know, the mastery of what the ultimate that we've come apart from the expansion into love and light and the truth of all we are again, is in that journey we've come to understand and to reconcile all the imbalances within our field back into that state. And as energy, in positive and negative, that's what we are, can't be separated. So we're not just light and no shadow. We're both. They're indivisible. They're inseparable. So we, as a free will soul choice and a free will projection from source, experiencing this moment of now, and right from when we've arrived, have had in every moment choice of which way and how far we choose to walk. So the key is always that while ego will always say to us when we're down in that ego sense from anywhere close to the midpoint down the slippery slope, and that sort of goes down to the levels of ego and fear that you hold, and less light going down that slippery slope, is that you are always in the space of, at the same moment, in truth, that while you're only concentrating your thoughts and beliefs and stories down here, and however they're serving you to just keep going, as you just alluded to, equally available in the moment is all this. It's all there. So while we might be chasing love, love is still present. While we might be chasing happiness, happiness hasn't left. While we're here looking for tolerance, or we're feeling we're needing appreciation, or we're feeling the intolerance around us, both are present equally right now, because that's energy. They're in the moment available to you. But what happens is when you're stuck here in the blinkers, think of it like ego is blinkering, you're covering this up to the truth. But your eyes are shrouded, your whole being is becoming shrouded in this self-created fog. As I said, the joy, the love, the happiness hasn't gone anywhere, but you've created the fog into levels of density around you that you believe that's not there. But it always is. But you've chosen to have a belief that it's not there. And so you seek it in the fog. And we all know how hard that can be. We're looking, but the fog can get, because the more we look, the fog gets deeper, the fog gets thicker, because that's just the paradox of life that we are, because we have a belief it's not there, so we see more of it not being there. But the minute we turn our head, or we choose to look for what another direction of light, be it a modality, be it simply meditation, be it anything that takes us into being responsible and saying, hang on a minute, I have to have some part in this. It can't just be happening to me. What is the point of me coming to Earth and life's crap? What is the point of that? Just that simple question to the self is, and for years I didn't think about that. I'll be honest, I just existed. Fight, flight, fight, flight, fight, flight. Adrenals, bing, 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 bing. Neon signs off the charts. But until I actually stopped, took a breath one day, and it's always in the divine time, that you go, well, what is this all about? Why would I just come to experience crap or suffering? And when we know that 5D and source or God is everything that's love and joy, well, how can we reconcile that? We can't be that if we're this. So what's the go? What's the give here? The give is us. The give is our thoughts, our conditions, our patterns, everything we've ever been taught that we've aligned to, that now is the moment as we awaken, and it is an awakening journey. We are literally awakening from a dream, a nightmare in many times of parents, that as we awaken, we then start to realize, hang on a minute, because we feel the shift, we feel something. It's giving us a hope. It's giving us something to look towards. But again, you can't have a different outcome. You can't see something that you want if you're constantly looking in that direction. How can you? If you keep staying fixed in one direction, you've got all this avenue over here that things are arriving that you're not looking at because you're choosing to stay here. But everything's coming over here and you're still saying nothing's coming. I'm asking, I'm mantraing, I'm putting out my affirmations, I'm direct to source and I'm wanting this, this and this, but nothing's coming. And source is saying, we're delivering it all, but it's over here. We need you to turn your head a little bit. You have to be willing to change direction to see even just a fragment of this. And then when you turn that way completely, wow, there's a whole new world over here. And then we bring them into balance.
Yeah, that's another topic that's been happening between Isla and I lately, in terms of where energy goes, where your focus goes, energy flows. Because again, since the times of COVID, my daughter has a perception of the government that I don't know how she got really, but but we've got like local elections obviously brewing, because there's a particular gentleman that she keeps seeing pop up in signs everywhere around our community. And when they first started popping up, she was like, oh, the government. And she's got one of her little besties on board with this anti-government perception, and they were in the back seat, you know, and I was like, what are you guys talking about? And they're like, oh, those signs. And, you know, so we've been having lots of conversations around where your focus goes, energy flows. And, you know, today she saw another one, and I said to her, you know, I said, well, you know, you've just been advertised to, because we also talk about it like that. And I said, oh, she goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, the fact that we're even having a conversation about him, you know, we don't know him, you know, it basically he's done a really good job of triangulating his marketing skills to you and advertising to you, because you're now having a discussion about someone that you don't even know, in the guise that you're probably going to look him up and discover who he is. And she's like, oh, that's it, I need to look him up and to see, you know, just what he's up to. And I said, well, he's probably going to be putting his best foot forward, babe. You know, he's not probably going to be listing out all of his poorer qualities or his qualities that he doesn't like about himself. He's going to be putting his best foot forward. So you might not have a truth about that. But again, I'd like to point it back to you that, you know, we're actually having a discussion about him right now. And as far as I can hear from you, you're not actually wanting to. So where can we put this focus into your life? Like, could you then be focusing that on practicing your splits? And she's like, oh, yeah, because, you know, her dream is to be a dancer. So,
and
you know,
she's already in judgment of someone she doesn't know.
That's right. And we talked about that as well. We talked about that, you know, and I spoke to the girls about that like weeks ago when they first started seeing the signs up. You know, you can't judge on that level with it. But the reason why I wanted to say that is because I feel like that's the job of our ego as well. Our ego's job is to advertise to us consistently about where it can validate why it needs to keep us where we are, you know. So it'll advertise to us through flashes of stories of our past. It'll advertise to us through only highlighting the "see, I told you so" perspectives of what's actually happening. And I remember, I think these are your words, Marie, I remember you saying years ago to me that, you know, the love vibration, I don't think you called it that at the time, but the vibration that's not ego, the one that actually is from our divine love, is softly spoken. It doesn't yell. It takes a minute to hear. It's the ego that is the one that wants to force, wants to, you know, and you can hear it when my daughter talks about these signs. You know, she's talking about it with indignation behind her, like she's 22 years old and ready to go and protest. You know, it's a completely different energy. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And so, you know, she's always like brainstorming. The conclusion of that beautiful little story is that when we flipped it into the highest vibration, she still was a little bit in that judgment and ego there, because the conclusion was, well, you did your helicopter's license, Mum. How about we go and fly a helicopter over there and just dump a whole bunch of crystals down over the
oh gosh, over his office.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
We can just put bags of crystals down.
Oh, you could.
So I'm like, look, I love it. I think it's a great idea, but again, we just need to be mindful where we're focusing our energy.
What are we aiding? What are we abetting? What are we contributing exactly? Do we want this or not? Oh dear. Out of the mouths of babes. It's classic.
Yeah.
Bless. No, it's you know, it's the interesting path we walk, and just to sort of really switch tack again here very quickly though, is just to bring in, I think, from that physical where we started, you know, when I really first started this journey, and my first blessed being who came to really kick my ass but also walk with me and guide me through was El Moria, who is the master of the first ray. And I've done a lot of first ray, is a big ray for me, as is the violet ray, and they're difficult rays to walk, because the first ray is all about truth, so you have to recognize every part that's not true. And that's what I put my hand up for. But in saying that, you know, he said to me years and years ago at the beginning, when I just started my first groups, he said, teach like this. He said, tell them they are a computer. They are a computer with 7 energy centers then. We're expanding, but we'll start with the 7. They're the main frame, so to speak. And that those chakras are like the portals to the higher realms. But let's keep it simple. So in that computer, look at how you look after it. Is it plugged in to the source of power? Is it grounded? Is it flowing? Are you looking after it? Are you maintaining it? Just like you would a car, which we often do better than we do us. You have a battery backup pack on board that will be like a generator, because we know you're going to forget. So we've given you this extra assistance to keep you flowing. But the job is yours, as it will be everybody's, to maintain the system and to keep the flow of the system. But this connection and grounding is vital. Just like a power point, any electrical system, you are electromagnetic, we all are. But again, if we forgot, and we did, and we have, they knew, our higher self knew this, which is the battery backup. But again, that can only go for so long. And so again, everything we experience, think, witness, a part of, create, whatever, all those energies are stored in our field. Not only have we come in with lots we've stored, but then we add to this incarnation. So the chakras are literally like a disc, a spinning disc. And I always said to them, the image they gave me then was, think of it like a CD, because CDs were big and they were, you know, relatively new. It's like a CD and can hold lots of information. So that's your chakra. They spin and they hold information. So Carolyn Myss, and I've always loved this sentence, it sat with me years ago. Your biography, all your stories, all the thoughts you have, everything you take in, be it conscious, subconscious, unconscious, every moment is stored within the 7 chakras. So when we're not looking after them, when we're not freeing them, when we're not releasing, and I had a great question about that last night, but when we're not raising lower frequencies back through love, transmutation, violet ray, consciousness, just allowing through acceptance, recognition, we're not transferring and transforming that frequency, it all remains stuck and the energies get denser and denser and denser. So we have more of a solid perception, which is not true. But we have the skills to shift that. But when we're not, and we're not looking after ourselves, and we keep giving our power away from all the chakras by looking outside of ourselves to be fixed, to want for anything, however our intention is of whatever we're doing, whether it's we're still giving that power away to make me better, fix me, or whether we're actually saying, well, I'm willing to work with this to understand. They're very different energies. The chakra system has the great capacity and inbuilt mechanism of saying, to give you the alert to say, you have an energetic problem, Houston, as I used to call it. You need to have a look inside. So let's create a symptom for you. And when we still don't look, well, then we develop more of a system or multiple symptoms. And then if we're still not looking, we will ultimately create an illness to get our attention, pending again how big we choose to make that. But we are creating it all simply by not choosing to go in and realize we have the ability to change that. What we don't realize, and this is why I'm so blessed, I never wanted to be a nurse, but everything happens as it's meant to. Went nursing, did it all. Had to know this to know the balance, to understand the physical, to understand the metaphysical, and to blend them in harmony again, that they are for this physical presentation. And so knowing that every system in physical, and this is science, every organ in your body, every part of your physical structure replenishes itself. In varying time units and varying time zones, but it replenishes everything. So the liver, every 6 weeks, you've got a new liver. Most people don't know this. On the metaphysical side, you are divine intelligence, and your body is, your higher self is in charge of every aspect of your walk. That is continuing to keep you moving, and your elemental self, which is pure energy, is feeding through to give you every opportunity to wake up and to come online again to the truth of energy that you are, to give you then the moment to rise consciously. But it's supporting you, and the body is doing its job. It's this incredible orchestration, and it's happening without you even thinking about it. we think we control. That's an ego illusion, because as I say to many in my chair, when was the last time you asked your lungs to breathe? Did you just tell your toe to move there? How often are you telling your mind to blink? And they'll look at me like, what the frig is she on? But this is the truth. You have an intelligence that you're not telling what to do, that is running you without you even a part of it. So can you imagine when you join in and you become part of the intelligence system and you work with the aspects of energy and consciousness that you truly are, what can you do? Anything you bloody will want. That's the answer. With love. If you're coming from love, if you're coming from the need and the want to really learn and to expand into your greater truth, you can do anything. You are the miracle waiting to happen. But if you're coming from that part, and in our darkness is our test, for the fix, do anything you can to make this go away. I don't like it. Fear. Nothing will change. You'll continue to repeat the teachings, expand the teachings, simply for you to recognize you've got all the ability to do what you want here as soon as you are willing.
And that's why gratitude, fine tunes that. So even if you don't have anything really going on, to find gratitude for the way that your body is thriving, to find gratitude for the things that you have in your life, or they allow that fine tuning to occur because they're allowing you to focus on everything that is perfectly divine within you, outside of you, that the co-creations that you have made that are just glorious and gorgeous. And people take gratitude like a task, but it's something to infuse into our being on a daily basis. And it's something that, like in my conversations again with my daughter, it's not something that, she organically flows towards. So it's like, when she was 6 or so, I had to continuously remind her to pick up her towel. It's your responsibility to pick your towel up and put it back on its hook. Now I feel like you're old enough. That took about a year. So it sometimes can take a little while for us to form these good habits. But that's only because we've been taught not to value them, or we've been, think about even when you're a child and your parents just taskmastering you in a certain way to what they value or to what they need. It's really quite easy for us to lose our way in that way. But I think that to have gratitude for even our childhoods, like in all their totality, is such an important thing, because those unconscious years where we're being raised by parents or whoever we're being raised by are our biggest gifts towards finding out what our truth really is, because of the experiences that we've had there. And to have gratitude for those experiences is often a really difficult thing for people to muster up. Absolutely. To have gratitude for the things that have happened to them is all their experiences, is. But I in truth wouldn't be sitting here before you today had I not taken myself on a little journey of really finding gratitude for everything that has occurred in my life right up until this date. And Nora, there's lots of things I wouldn't be sitting there going, as a child, I would have totally dreamt that up. But those are the things that also keep me challenging myself and keep me going, okay, well, I'm noticing this. How have I taken myself to this level right up until this point in time, and really honing in and fine-tuning a new layer of accountability around what that is. Because any restlessness that we feel within ourselves is usually pointing ourselves into a direction where we're sitting comfortable in our ego right now. So restlessness is a good thing. To feel restless is a symptom picture. It's a symptom picture that no, it's not okay where you are right now. I'm not saying to go and quit your job and just go and open up your own business, but I am saying if your job is having an expression where it's not actually aligning with your truth, you have to be looking at what's actually not aligning there. And it's going to be a multitude of reasons. And you'll most likely find those reasons also simultaneously being reflected to you in your relationships, in your health and well-being, and in money.
And that's the energy that consciousness is, because in consciousness we are one with everything.
Yeah.
Which is why nothing is outside of us. Everything is a projection. It's an emanation of a thought, a belief that we hold, that is simply creating a form in matter to give us the ability to look at it and take it within ourselves yet again. It's like the full circle. You know, it starts here, it goes out, comes back, starts here, goes out, comes back. This is the circle of life. You know, this is where nothing is separate from us ever.
Mm.
And it is, it's, you know, and the thing with humans too, you know, I know that the power of the mind is that if you haven't been trained, because you've forgotten when you arrive in this earth, you wake up, or you go into the sleep of this earth game. And through that, you know, until you are taught, and what you are taught or what you witness becomes your beliefs, as we know. So this is such a simple example. You know, I was trained in a house that my parents couldn't fix anything. We always relied on the outside help. Dad always had to get somebody in. He wasn't a handyman. They never did anything themselves. There was no painting. There was no, as I said, no fixing, no internal work, which again, just listening to these words, just listen to how you describe stuff, okay? So there was no internal work that they did. Everything was outsourced. So truthfully, I got up into my 20s, 30s. I didn't even realize, I mean, this is, again, me, I'm being honest. I remember watching this friend who was my mirror of her positives. She decided this one day in her new house, I'm going to paint the wall. And we went up buying paint and we went down to paint the wall. And I was just like in awe of going, can you do this? Do you do this? And she looked at me like, yes. And I went, oh. And so I watched her tape, watched her do everything, do it all, just boom, 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 off she went, had the idea, boom, she was doing it. Here we had the colours. And I was like in this adjusting phase of going, I didn't know that we could even paint a wall. I had a house that I had the original painting because I didn't really like it, but I left it because on some level I just thought I can't change that. Hello, bigger, deeper symbolism here. This is what I'd been shown just simplistically from the parenting, just something so silly it seems, but it was huge in this moment going, I can do that. Well, from then on, I've never stopped painting. I have painted and painted and painted.
It's true.
This was like, it's true, right? But this was such a moment of freedom for me going, I can change anything that I want. I can put what I want where I want it. I can do what I want. Prior to that, I thought I can't. That was unchangeable.
Mm.
That's really empowering. That's so simplistically empowering. It's ridiculous. But this is how simple these moments can be that we are just totally stuck to. You know, it's true, and I've never stopped. And it's such, when I'm renovating now, I know I'm renovating me. Excuse me, something's coming through the throat chakra. But yeah, I am big on renovating. But that's very much, I know when I'm getting the urge to do something, it's the I see what it is, which part of the house it is, up or down. I look to the kitchen, soil plexus. I look to a chakra aspect. I look to an internal aspect to say, right, take me in, Scotty. Let's have a look here what's going on, because there's always an in and an out as a mirror back to one another. Mm. That's what I've learned. Mm. So is my car.
Yep.
Car's a reflection. Everything's a reflection.
Everything
answers are everywhere if we're looking.
So I think the conclusion is, so focusing on this moon, we're reflecting back roughly 26 to 28 years about
24
what was
to 26. Yeah.
24 to 26 years about what was happening around that time. I won't share my story today. And for all who haven't read The Lord of the Seven Rays, perhaps that's a book to consider, because Marie was mentioning the first ray. So I know that many of you might have questions about what she was bumping her gums about there. That's in the book, The Lord of the Seven Rays. Who's the author?
Mark L. Prophet, Summit Lighthouse University Press.
Right. Yeah, so it'll be available.
It should still be available. Yep.
It'll be available on the Summit Lighthouse. The Summit Lighthouse is a beautiful website to visit anyway.
Yeah.
Beautiful decrees,
higher
energy, and lots of violet flame information as well.
Yeah. And can I add in here too, a book that I recommend as one of the Bibles is The Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Myss, which for those who want to do any chakra work and understand the symbolism aspects plus the energetic, emotional aspects, it's a great entry point or recall, keep coming back to. There's certain books are like your Bibles that you just never stop using them. And then, in a Sacred Circle group the other night, we did archetypes, and she also has a great book, Sacred Contracts, which sort of compilates the two in a way, but really talks about archetype structures, which could be another chat. And can I throw in here, because I never normally do, but I am, is that from the workshop we did last night, we discussed a lot in different ways about the lower ego and the movement forward. And yes, it was a paid workshop, but I did record it. So I will offer anybody who would like it. I will put a nominal fee to that, which I haven't thought about because it's just flashed in, but I can send you the audio. I will make the audio of it available via our Zoom. It was a good 2-hour workshop. So yeah, I'm happy to post something up to Instagram, and Martine might share that. But if anybody would be interested to look at that, listen to it, I'm happy to forward that via G-Link, as I said, for a nominal fee.
It's always beautiful to do something proactive like that. One of my chakra books is the books written by Judith and Anoida, and she is the one that wrote the Wheels of Life, and there's like Western Mind, what it is, Mind, Western Body, that all of those books, and they're all based on the chakra as well. My chakra immersion kicks off on Saturday night. I've just ordered all the crystals. I have a latecomer pending in the wings, so if anyone else wants to jump on late, please get in contact with me ASAP to jump into this 7-month immersion through the chakras, through those CD discs that Marie was talking about, to really immerse yourself in sitting with what's lying in each of yours, and what what you have to both be grateful for in them, and also to be still working on clearing and looking at where the ego still lies. I know you spoke a little bit about that relative to those lower chakras. I feel like those lower chakras are definitely on fire for the month of March, where we look at all of those. So even if you're just familiarizing yourself with the base, the sacral and the solar in reflection to everything that's happening around you in this month of March, it'll be a beautiful reflection as to where you're still carrying these perceptions.
Well, they're the lower 3 chakras that are your physical ego aspects. And that's why we're really moving through them now. Wonderful.
Feels complete.
Yay. Another one done. Hope you enjoyed. We enjoy them. We hope you do.
Yeah. And share if you come across a particular episode that you really love. Introduce someone else to it. And even if they only just listen to that episode, that might be something that they just needed in that point in time.
Yeah.
Big love to you all.
Big love. Take care. Keep on keeping on. This is a big month coming up. 21st, the equinox. 22nd, 23rd, another major astrological huge alignment. Planets are all moving forward. Things are going to be shifting. Change is definitely coming. We've got to be ready and willing to move with it, because it's good stuff ahead. But again, we can only get to the good by acknowledging what we need to work through to get there, and to be holding that and maintaining the high vibration. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. See you. Bye.